you made the point about politics. I just think they take this vote. I just don't see how that helps the GOP going into November when, at the end of the day, if you think back to even when the contempt vote, they wanted it against Attorney General Janet Reno. Even then, Speaker Newt Gingrich was like, look, this ain't going to help us at all.
Right.
It brings down.
Kelly made the point, though. I think it kind of creates this cloud.
Yes.
And I think people have a hard time kind of disaggregating things. Like the public just hears about Holder doing something, you know, and something's going on. So I think it helps them in that way.
But didn't President Obama reveal his own political hand in this, when before the contempt vote even came down, he invoked executive privilege? That's always been a political move. It's never been used, for the most part, for anything other than that. He's covering his butt. He's already got Holder covering his butt. What this does, though, it seems to me, and it's the way it's been played out in several other similar instances when the privilege has been invoked, is the two sides end up sitting down negotiating where they're going to head anyway. And that's what needs to be done.
He had already been in the talk to Congress people privately to brief them on various aspects of the issue. Eric Holder, as the steward of the Office of Attorney General, has a constitutional responsibility to protect certain things, to protect the integrity of that office that transcends this administration. This is a political move. The Republicans do it every time in terms of trying to gain certain advantages. I'm going to call it for what it is.
It's certainly a gamble on the part of the GOP, because there are independent voters that this could work with, right, who could hear words like Watergate and not actually follow through, and it could work. But the other gamble that they are taking was one name, Ken Starr, which is the backlash that resulted in the base of African-American voters who supported President Clinton feeling our president is under unfair attack. And that could happen.
Now,
that could happen this time.
I saw this story that Bloomberg did, and it really came out of Florida, which actually caught my attention. Was amazing. According to several sources, the Romney campaign asked Florida Governor Rick Scott to say, can you take it down a notch when it comes to how the Florida economy is improving? Earlier, we saw Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell admit the stimulus bill, which the GOP hates, even though 40% of it was tax cuts, admitted it helped Virginia's budget and their economy. We've heard Governor Kasich talk about improving economy. And so how crazy is it to say, hey, I know you're the governor of a state and things appear to be getting better, but we really can't have you talking about how the economy is improving in your state, because it really doesn't help us attacking this guy, President Obama.
You know, this kind of shows the tightrope I think Mitt Romney's walking in a way. And many of the swing states have Republican governors who want to say the economy is improving. And Romney wants to make the case that President Obama is a bad steward of the economy. So how do you sort of square that?
And you're attacking a major bill, $787 billion, like in Texas. I was cracking up during the Republican debates to hear Governor Rick Perry talk about how he hated the stimulus bill when he used stimulus money to balance Texas's budget.
Every last penny he took, and if he had the opportunity to go to other states and get their money, he would have taken it too. I know we did it in Pennsylvania. We've taken other states' moves. This is the hypocrisy of the Republican reality that's going on right here.
Deborah, is it? I'm sorry.
They want to suppress economic activity. They want to suppress talk of economic growth in states. And the reality is that people are getting hurt by their actions. By not driving state economic activity, it's holding back the national progress.
The irony is I think there's still plenty of room to criticize the state of the economy without having to resort to hypocrisy. I mean, come on.
No, look, Romney knows that when it comes to the economy, that's his issue, and that's the one stake he can keep driving.
And he needs to win Florida.
And he needs to win Florida. But there's nothing he can gain by doing that. More importantly, it will make the governor look even stupid if he goes along with Romney's proposal to tamp down on how well states are doing. I don't think there's any state in the union, and I know certainly in the District of Columbia, when that stimulus money came in, we turned on the spigot and were spending it left and right on a whole lot of, particularly projects, transportation, road projects, education projects that were tied into federal dollars. But we're almost at reconciliation reconciliation day right now. I think Senator told me they'll have their budget wrapped up in the next week or two. A lot of states, Maryland is still dickering over, do we get casinos to bring in new revenue? How are we going to bring in new, because stimulus money has dried up. And Republican and Democratic governors and senators alike made all these promises 3 years ago based on this money. Interesting enough, however, the jobs that we've gained, the very few jobs that we've gained in the past couple of years have been in the private sector and not in the public sector, where the next fight with Obama and Romney
but here's the deal with that.
With the unions.
What was always hilarious to me, though, every month we saw the job numbers come out and we saw public sector jobs being lost, and the GOP was criticizing the president for that when they hate public sector jobs. And so you can't, to me, you can't.
Well, no, Republicans only hate some public sector jobs.
Some, except their own.
Wait, just teachers, firefighters,
Exactly. And I hate to say it for Michael, but it was a New York Times story that came out earlier this week that talked about the loss of public sector jobs. Sure. And in fact, every time that there was a recession, and there was a Republican president, they made a conscious decision to invest in the public sector to keep action and activity going on there. This time, this guy wants to pull back that investment. It further hurts the broader economy.
Michael, I want to give you about 30 seconds. I wish I can do it longer. We've dealt with this issue before. Census Bureau this week, white wealth, black wealth, 22 times greater among whites. That's huge.
That's huge. It's been huge, and it's gotten bigger through the recession. African Americans have been the big losers in the housing crash. I mean, like most Americans, most of our wealth was tied up there, and we suffered more in terms of losing wealth, losing home equity, losing our homes altogether in this crash. And that's what you see playing out in these wealth figures. We're staked completely to homes, and home values have crashed in much of the country.
Okay, and I got to throw this out. My producers will be upset with me, but I need each of the panel to hit me your thoughts on Mitt Romney saying, I'm going to speak to the NAACP.
Brave or stupid? I don't know. I don't know which. I think that, look, you have to show up, and so I think that you have to have a seat at the table to have a foot in the game, so he should show up. I think it speaks well of him to do so.
He should, but it's got to be about substance, not about style, and he's going to be about style.
Yeah, I think it should be about both, and I think he's as brave as any point guard in the NBA who would go up against the three bigs down in Miami. just go on up in the paint and show them who and what you are and what you have to say. He's going to get booed either way.
I'll tell you what, Mike, to your point about the whole issue of black wealth, I think one of the things you're going to see, he's not going to go to the NAACP, talk about with the party of linking. I think he's going to walk in there. I think he's going to go right to the NAACP and say, 53% of black wealth has been wiped out because of the housing crisis. He's going to talk about black unemployment when it comes to youth, to African Americans in particular. And then he also talk about, I think, small black women and small businesses. Yeah. If he goes there and makes those points, it's hard to counter it when the facts are with him.
The facts are with him. I think we got a little preview this week when he spoke to a Hispanic group down in Florida.
But
talked about, he talked about the Hispanic unemployment rate versus the general unemployment rate, and the Hispanic rate is higher, and he's the guy who's going to fix it. Now, whether you believe he can fix it is another matter, but that's the case.
But he's not going to talk about Trayvon Martin. He's not going to talk about Trayvon Martin.
No. Of course, he's not going to talk about Trayvon Martin. But when your whole agenda has been the economy, what I'm saying is, when he goes to the NAACP, don't be shocked if it's an economic discussion. And when the Obama administration is on their fourth housing plan, it's going to be hard to counter what he has to say about housing, no matter how hard you may want to try to.